Once again, we're so thankful for the God of heaven who has granted us another opportunity to do things that's relevant to our soul's salvation. That is to worship our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ in spirit and in truth. According to John 4:24, the Bible says, God is spirit. They that worship him must worship him in spirit and in truth. If you're visiting with us, we want you to know, Your Honor, yes, we pray in open trust. We do and say something that will be edifying for all of us on this day. I want to thank all the ones who have participated this far in carrying on the service. I want to thank Brother Russell for that scripture reading. And thank Brother Lewis for that prayer. I want to thank Brother Simpson for those wonderful hymns. I want to really apologize because I don't know. If I had taken some NyQuil, I would have blamed it on the NyQuil. But I didn't take no NyQuil, but so that's my mistake. I said Genesis. I looked at my text. I said, I'm moving Exodus. I looked at my text. I said, I did text in Genesis chapter 3, verses 1 through 6. But it's Exodus chapter 3, verses 1 through 6. That's you know how the basketball players say, "It's my bad." Well, that's my bad. That was my mistake. Of course, I guess I might have had too many of them cough drops or whatever. But forgive me for that. That's my mistake. Exodus, chapter 3, verses number 1 through 6. You see how it's important the Word of God don't need to change at all. When somebody changes something, it messes up everything. So we have to make sure it's accurate. So let's look at the Word of God this morning. Hopefully we can glean something from this that will be a blessing to all of our lives. Exodus chapter 3, verses number 1 through 6. Now Moses kept the flock of Jethro, his father-in-law, the priest of Midian, and he led the flock to the backside of the desert and came to the mountain of God, even to Mount Horeb. And the angel of the Lord appeared unto him in a flame of fire out of the midst of a bush. And he looked, and behold, the bush burned with fire, and the bush was not consumed. And Moses said, I will now turn aside and see this great sight, while the bush is not burned. And when the Lord saw that he turned aside to see, God called unto him out of the midst of the bush and said, Moses, Moses. And he said, Here am I. And he said, Draw not nigh hither. Put off thy shoes, for off thy feet. For the place whereon thou standest is holy ground. Moreover, he said, I am the God of thy father, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. And Moses hid his face, for he was afraid to look upon God. I want to use for a subject this morning, Moses, the mountain man. Moses, the mountain man. A few days ago, I was going down to Memphis, and I was trying to, sometime when you're driving, and I was somewhat wanting to listen to something inspiring. And a lot of times you listen to something inspiring to keep you from going to sleep. Right. So I was listening, and I turned on, being that it's Black History Month, and I wanted to hear something, and I turned on, Google, whatever, YouTube, whatever it was, and I was listening to Dr. King, Been to the Mountaintop. And I think about where that sermon probably was drawn from, probably something to do with Moses. And I thought about that was very inspiring, although when I look at it and think about it, there's a lot of things that you can kind of relate to what was going on with the civil rights movement, and they was looking at how that, they was looking, trying to get freedom and certain things about civil rights and what have you. And I look at Moses, how dealing with liberation, how that God wanted Moses to lead the children out of Egypt. And we've been talking about the providence of God. God's providence. How God watches over us. We started, and I stayed in Genesis so long, I guess I was thinking about Genesis and Exodus. But anyway, the providence of God goes on from Genesis even into Exodus and even throughout the Bible. God watches over us. God protects us. And on last week, we dealt with what's in the ark. We dealt with Moses. We dealt with Moses being a baby. And we talked about some things that was in the ark. I know that we say that only Moses was in that little ark, but something more profound was in that ark than just Moses in the ark. Deliverance was in that ark. And we compared that with the Ark of Covenant. The same thing that was in the Ark of Covenant. We looked at the Aaron rod was in that ark, and we looked at how that pot of manna was in that ark, and we looked at how that the Ten Commandments was in that ark. All those things was also in that small ark, not literally, but we understand those things was in the ark because Moses was a thing that was a continuation of those things that was in that ark. And I know that was an Ark of Covenant, and the Ark of Covenant represented the presence of God. God had always been with Moses since the day that he was born, and God is still watching over Moses. And we looked at Moses, we shared with you how that transitioned from him, from a baby, and I went into the next chapter. That was a period of 40 years. 40 years when Moses saw the Egyptian beating up on the Hebrew, and Moses killed them, looked around, and he killed that Egyptian, and he looked around, and when he understood the next day, when two of the Hebrews were fighting one another, and Moses intervened and caused them, and one of them men said, "Are you going to kill us like you did that Egyptian? Who are you to tell us what to do?" In so many words. And Moses realized that this must be known everywhere. So Moses ran to the land of Midian. And if you look at it on a map, you would see the land of Midian. Up here you have Goshen and where they was living, where Moses, when they first started back when they was settled in Goshen, because that's what a place when you see where when Joseph placed them there, and in that where Joseph placed them, there was herdmen. And when I look at this and I see on that map how that the Red Sea had two bodies of water that goes up. One of them was, I think on the east side, was a little higher than the one on the west side. And in that body of water, I think Moses, the way Moses entered into Midian, he didn't go across the Red Sea the first time when he went to Midian. The route looked like he took the top of Goshen and went down on the top side of the body of water. And when he got down to Midian, where Jethro, his father-in-law was, he didn't cross the Red Sea, that the route that history says he went across the first time. But he got to go back to Egypt. And here in Midian, where he was, he met, you remember, I think on last Sunday evening, we talked about how Moses went to the well, and the people was there. Jethro, Rio, the name, another word for Jethro, I think, was there. And I understand that he had 7 daughters, and they was trying to water the flock. And when they was trying to water the flock, there was men that was there that wouldn't let them water the flock. And Moses handled those men and allowed those Jethro daughters to water the flock. You might say, how did Moses hold off all those men? Well, you remember, Moses had some training in Egypt. Moses was one of the best. See, Egypt was one of the best militaries in their day. So Moses was a trained soldier. Moses went to the best school in a military tactic. I don't know, I'm a movie, I like movies. Any of you ever seen Jason Bourne? Jason Bourne. Anyway, he was a government skilled trained fighter. Well, that's what I want you to see is that Moses was a skilled, maybe you seen Equalizer. That's all right. But anyway, he was a skilled trained fighter. So here, Moses was able to fight off these men, and he allowed Jethro's daughters to water their flock. Moses tried to get him a girlfriend and a wife, you know. But that's what happened when you look at it now. But if you read the story, that's what happened. So here, I understand that when he went back home, Jethro asked his daughters, how did y'all water the flock so fast, and you're back here now? How did this happen so fast? They said that was a man that helped us. An Egyptian. They called him Egyptian, y'all. He really wasn't Egyptian, but the way the Egyptian carried themselves, they would shave themselves. They didn't have the beards like the Midians and the Hebrews. They didn't wear beards. They was clean cut. So they took him as an Egyptian. And the way he was dressed, perhaps the clothes that he had on. And the idea is, you remember even when the boys of Jacob came to see Joseph, and Joseph was dressed like an Egyptian. He had this clean cut, and they from a distance, they didn't know that was their brother. So he was carrying himself like an Egyptian, and he looked somewhat, had his shade like an Egyptian. So in other words, they called him an Egyptian when actually he was a Hebrew, because we understand that he was according to his culture. And when you look at this, you see here when he made it back here to Midian. So God was watching over Moses. God was giving Moses in the land of Midian. When he met Jethro and the daughters told him what happened, and they said, why didn't y'all show me the word? Why didn't you bring him to the house? And they invited him there. And he married one of the daughters, Jethro, I believe it was. And he married one of Jethro's daughters. And the thing about it is that when Moses was there, and we're going to leap from there to about 40 years later. Here it is 40 years later. Can you imagine Moses kind of somewhat forgetting about, not just so much forgetting about what went on in Egypt, but he done got another life. Now he's doing something. God was grooming him to lead the children out of Egypt. How did God, this is a different lifestyle from what he was living in Egypt. He was somewhat like a prince there in Egypt, but now he's a shepherd. Now he's learning something when probably everything was being brought to him in Egypt. He probably had to go and get it. So here it is now that he's learning something about humility. He's learning something about what the Egyptians despised, a shepherd. Remember, that's the reason they were living in Goshen, because they was shepherd beings, and that's one of the reasons. But here, he's living a life, but this is who Moses is now. And God is preparing him to lead the children out of Egypt. And now that he's here, in Midian, there was a burning bush. And he saw up on a mountain. That's why I'm calling this sermon a mountain man. Moses, the mountain man. Why? Because Moses had a lot of experiences on the mountain. This is the same mountain that is called Mount Sinai. This mountain would be the mountain in which Moses would get the law. And the thing about it, when you look at this and you see here, Moses here had a call. He was summoned by God. And when he saw this burning bush, and I know that sometimes people may come up with a lot of stuff concerning the bush. Some people call it St. Elmo's fire, which said that an electrical phenomenon somehow came up. They try to make something and try to do away with God's miracle. Some people might say that this was a volcano phenomenon. That was not that either. Some people might even call it a myth. It was not a myth either. Some people said that maybe there was the sunlight piercing through a cliff, and there was a light on the other side. But I'm not going to believe none of that stuff, what man said they think this was. I believe, according to the Bible, I believe that this was exactly what Moses wrote and said it was. I believe that that was a burning bush, that bush was in that fire, and it was not consuming. And perhaps this was a picture, a symbolic picture of the children of Egypt being suffering there. Some believe that perhaps it was a picture of Egypt, the children in Egypt suffering was not consumed. And then there's other methods that people believe. But if you lay all of that stuff aside, you got to remember that this is a call that God is sending Moses to Egypt, and this was a summons that he would call and send Moses to Egypt to liberate them and to cause them to come out of Egypt. And then this burning bush, if you will, notice what God said to Moses. He said, Moses, I think sometimes when you want to really get somebody's attention, you call their name a few times. Moses, God got his attention. And now that God has his attention, he told Moses to take off your shoes, for thy feet is on holy ground. This ground here, we ought to understand that when we approach God, we are approaching God, and we ought to approach him in a reverence way. When we come to worship, we ought to have in our mind, I'm coming to worship God in spirit and in truth. Everything we do in worship needs to be done decently and in order. Every time when we come to worship, let's make sure that we focus on everything in worship. Even when we come and we're taking communion, let's make sure that we're focusing on the cross. Don't no notes need to be taken. Don't no nails need to be cleaning out at that time. Don't no talking need to be going on at that time. We need to make sure that we're focusing on the cross. Your mind needs to be understanding what Jesus did for me that day. How he bled on that cross. He died on that cross. And with other week, we was talking about how maybe in your lesson today, I remember reading, I don't know if last week or this week, but anyway, I understand that on that cross, that was a cruel cross. A lot of pain, a lot of agony, a lot of suffering was on that cross. Jesus just didn't die just to be dying. Jesus died to purchase the church with his blood. And that's why I don't understand why people say any church would do. Jesus died. If any church would do, Jesus didn't even have to die on the cross. You could be saved anywhere. Didn't even have to die on the cross. But he purchased the church with his blood. Acts 20 and 28, that's life. So Jesus, when he purchased this church, we understand that Moses, when he got ready to approach God, when you get ready to worship God, when you get ready to approach God in that prayer, teach our children, if they're talking, be quiet, be praying. Teach them what's right. Don't be walking and all sudden when we worship. I know there may be an emergency, but sometimes people may have to go to have an emergency. That's all right when you just got to go. But make sure in worship we don't be doing a lot of walking and talking and act like we just out at a park somewhere. Let's respect God in the house of God and worship God in spirit and in truth and in God's flesh. Moses. So we got to know how to take off our shoes. We're not literally taking our shoes off if we do somebody might be running out of here. But the idea is, back then, there was a sense of reverence and respect. Time to approach God. And I know this was a summons to call Moses for a certain duty, but as a worship, when we worship God, let's have that approach of reverence and respect. So watch this, watch this. Moses on this mountain. When I look at this Moses being on this mountain, notice here now, God wants you to do something, Moses. And when God asks us to do something, Moses tried to make some excuses. A lot of times we try to make excuses when God asks us to do things. And you know what Moses was doing? When Moses said, I can't speak well and all of this, Moses tried to make all kinds of excuses. But God had a plan for Moses. And God told him in so many words, Moses, who made your mouth? You think God don't know who you are? Moses is not based upon your ability. It's based upon who I am. The question was, Moses asked, who am I to go to Egypt? And another question he asked, who are you? Who am I and who are you? And God answered him question. Answer this question. He told him, I am that I am. I am the God of Jacob, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. Well, why did you say I'm the God? God is a perpetual, God is a continuous God. This is not about just starting with you, Moses. I'm just finishing what I originally planned back in Genesis 15. I told you I'm going to make you a great nation. You're going to be in the land, a certain land of Canaan, the land that flows with milk and honey. I done told you. And the thing about it, I'm just going and I'm just completing my original plan. See, it's not an afterthought. God knew the children was in the land of Egypt. God sometimes has to put people in the fire to get them ready. Moses, in a sense, had been through some training. He had 40 years in Egypt. Here it is, 40 years now in Midian. Can you imagine? 80 years old, and God said, now it's time for you to go to work for what I want you to do. Because Moses tried to deliver Egypt his own way. We can't do it our way. We have to do it God's way. Moses may have thought, well, let me fight him, and it might have been discouraging to know that he might have felt somewhat like a failure because I tried to deliver my people and I couldn't do it and I had to run away. God said to him, you was trying to do it your way. And let me show you how to do it my way. I'm going to take you in not as a king of a normal king like the king would come in with an army and take over. If you look at it, that's not the way Jesus did. You remember they were looking for a king to come and take over by military force and all of this. That's not the way. Jesus came and did it with love. So Moses is going to do it another way. God is going to say, here, Moses, you just go. And the thing about it, he said, who am I? God said, let me show you. Let me give you some credentials. You want to have something? Let me show you what I can do. What is that you have? Throw that rod down. It became a snake. And the thing about it, God miracles. When God do a miracle, God don't need the military power to go there to Egypt to show up the gods. Let me do it my way. You go. You see, like I was saying, Moses had problems when he said that, making excuses. You remember? He said that I can't speak, and God was angry with him, but he allowed Aaron to speak for him. Aaron speak fluently, and Aaron speaks so, and Aaron look, but Moses, you got to understand, God told Moses, I'll let Aaron speak, but let me tell you this. You'll be like a God to Moses. You tell Moses what to do, you tell Aaron what to do, and Aaron will speak. But Moses was the one, the chosen leader for the Israelites. So watch this, watch this. Up on this mountain, something changed. And when Moses went back, when Moses got ready, let's go back, if you will, to our text here just for a moment. Here, look back at Exodus chapter 3. So here now Moses kept the flock. That's when God was ruling. And the Lord, and you look at the flock, and to the backside of the desert, it came to the mountain that God, even to Mount Horeb. And the angel of the Lord appeared unto him in a flame of fire out of the midst of a bush. And he looked, and the whole bush burned with fire. And the bush was not consumed. God comes and appears many times. A lot of times you see God associated many times with water and fire. There's two things you're going to see many times God is associated with. Even when he got ready to lead the children out of Egypt. Remember, at night they were led by a pillar of fire. So God is a consuming fire. And the thing about it, this fire here, this bush here, well, this bush was in the fire, but it wasn't burning up. God knew how to preserve. When we are thrown in the fire, God knew how to preserve us. So watch this, watch this. Notice what he said here. Moses said, I will now turn aside and see this great sight. I want to use for an application. When you see the works of God, God's works deserves investigation. Let me go check this out. And I think that's what people need to do when it comes to learning about God. Go and investigate. If people are teaching something, investigate it and see is it right. Investigation is very important. Even many of you might watch the first 48. They have to investigate things, try to find out what's the right answer. What is right? Well, what am I looking for? What is right? So here, Moses wanted to find out, man, what is this? What is this burning bush? Then he went to investigate why the bush is not burning. And when the Lord saw that he turned aside to see, God called him out of the midst of the bush and said, Moses, Moses. And he said, here am I. And he said, draw not now hither. Put off thy shoes, for off thy feet the place whereon thou standest is holy ground. Notice what he said here. Notice what he said here in verse number 6. Moreover, he said, I am the God and the Father, God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. And Moses hid his face from where he was, for he was afraid to look upon God. I just see the difference in this. And when God hid his face, when Moses hid his face, Moses had another mountain experience or in the cliff where not Moses hid his face, but God covered his face. So this time Moses wanted to see the glory of God, but this time this was a mountain. Moses had a lot of mountain experiences. This time God, the Bible said, God put his hand over Moses' face and allowed him to see the back part of God. In other words, no man could see God and live. And that's one reason why I think God didn't want any image of him, of the image, because people would try to carve out the image. You remember the story about Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, where this king built an image and he wanted people to bow down and worship the image? They have a picture of what this image was like. And God never wanted an image of him, because people be going around with the image of God thinking they know what God looks like. No man has seen God at any time. If you want to see God, you know the way God showed himself is through his children. Amen. We need to be acting like God. God's glory needs to be seen through us. So God don't need no image, no literal image of who he is. So here we see that was another mountain experience of Moses. And that was also another experience of Moses. You know, I just want to share with you a few of these mountain experiences, because these mountains here, you remember, even after all of this, and I may be fast forwarding, but I want you to see here as well. When Moses got ready, the children, when he had led them out and got ready to go into the promised land, Moses had another mountain experience. The mountain experience that he looked over and saw the promised land from a mountain, but he wasn't able to go in the promised land. So what I'm trying to get you to see is that Moses had a lot of mountain experiences. And when I look at this and I think about what Moses did, and the thing about it, the same mountain that I was sharing with you about this mountain that he saw the burning bush, it was the same mountain. And as I was saying earlier, when you look at the map on Egypt and Midian, possibly Moses came down on the top of the body of water. But when they got ready to cross the Red Sea, that the body of water, evidently, the one that they traveled, had to come down in the middle of that body of water when they got ready to cross that Red Sea, because when he came down in the middle to cross over, it talks about how they had to cross the Red Sea. And the thing about it, when he crossed the Red Sea, and after he had crossed the Red Sea, you remember, we'll go back to that later, I just want to fast forward and show you a point, how that he crossed over. Moses went up to a mountain. And this was the same mountain. This mountain of Mount Sinai is the same mountain that Moses received the Ten Commandments. So here, Moses got the Word of God. Moses got the Word of God from God. The Ten Commandments, the same law that we talked about last week about the Ten Commandments that was in that Ark of Covenant, the same Ten Commandments. And you see this. What is all of this? What can we make an application from all of this? Let's look at this and say, Moses had some experiences on the mountain. He got the Word of God from the mountain. Moses got the summons from the mountaintop. And let me tell you, mother, about another mountain. About a prophet that said, I would raise up another prophet like unto Moses. And I want to tell you about Mount Calvary. A mountain that here that we understand, that we understand that is, and talk about how Jesus was associated with mountains as well. See how the comparison about the same thing that happened to Moses, this prophet that would raise up unto a prophet like unto Moses, referring to Jesus. But what do you see here? Well, that's the time when Jesus was tempted on the mountain. You remember the devil told him, go up on that mountain and jump off and let me see if you be the Son of God, he'll catch you in so many words. That was a mountain experience. But let me tell you, Jesus is the one that's able to show us what he did on that cross. And in all of his mountain experience, in all of his wilderness, Jesus not only had some mountain experience, he had some wilderness experience. And Moses had some wilderness experiences. You know what? just so we can have liberation today. Back in the old time, we look at Egypt is a symbol of, it is a literal bondage. Let me tell you this, sin is a symbol of bondage. We need to be liberated. Only somebody that could liberate us was Jesus on the cross. That's why the message is so important for us today. What God did for us on Calvary's cross. And that's why it's important that we share this message with our children, grandchildren, everybody we come in contact with. How Jesus died on that cross to liberate us, to free us from the sin of bondage. So when you look at this, you think about what God had done. And you think about even some of these similarities. Moses being a shepherd, and Jesus is that great shepherd. The great shepherd that laid down his life for the sheep. If Jesus died for us, shouldn't we be obedient? Moses was obedience to God. Children of God today need to be obedient to God. Listen to God. Reverence God. Respect God. Give God the due respect and worship and adoration toward God. God deserves everything. When we look at how that Jesus, when he was on that cross, and so often I say that you know what? Jesus was made sin. We need to get this. Jesus hadn't sinned. Jesus was made sin for us. Jesus was innocent. If anybody in this world that's one that was innocent. But he took our place. Kind of reminded me of a story. I was listening to a story not long ago how that was a lady that came to court and could not pay a fine. And there was a judge that was sitting there. The judge was there. And the thing about it, God has to uphold his own law. And when we look at it, law has to be upheld if it won't have no effect. And so in other words, this story was told about a judge that was sitting on judge sitting on the seat there, and the idea is this lady came forward, was unable to pay her fines. And he said, well, according to the law, she had given several chances. I got to put you in jail unless this is paid. She said, I just don't have it. So they said the judge took off his robe, went down and sat beside the lady, and put the fine money right there, put his robe back on, came back up there, and when he came back up there, and he said in so many words, the law got to be upheld, but the idea is the fine was paid. Jesus paid the fine for us. His blood, he took our place. It's almost like if you go in the store and somebody jump and say, well, I'll take the bullet for you. Jesus took the beating for us. And shouldn't we say thank you? Shouldn't we appreciate what God had done? If God did that for us, why not worship him, serve him? And not only that, at the end, heaven, you don't want to miss heaven. You can miss a bus, you can miss a plane, you can miss the train, but you don't want to miss heaven. All those other things, you can catch another one. But if you miss heaven, that's the only chance you got. And the thing about it is eternal. It lasts forever. If I'm just out there barbecuing and I just burn my hand, I'm snatching my hand back in a few seconds. That hurt. But I just think about what if I couldn't bring it back and just sit there and just burn. That's eternal. Our mind needs to really think, where am I going to go after this? There is an after this. Some people think if you're dead, it's just like Rover, you're dead all over. But there's an after this. It is appointed unto man once to die. And after this, after this. Here's the gospel, Romans 10:17. Believe with all your heart, Hebrews 11:6. Repent of your sin, Luke 13:3. Confess that Jesus Christ is the Son of God, in Acts 10:32. And be willing to be baptized, in Acts 38. For Peter preached the first gospel sermon to the fullest. Repent and be baptized, every one of you, for the remission of your sin. And you shall receive a gift. The seventh invitation.